like, screw the therapist, the real one. You don't need to pay £30 per month. You can always go to ChatGPT, and is that approved or is that effective?
Great question. It's being debated quite a lot at the moment.
Yeah. I will say one thing, that BMI is never true, 100% true all the time. You have to have someone like me classify them as overweight.
In any field, there are people that are doing it right and people that are not doing it right and are unethical. People would argue, yes, but when I say that he stops, well, he stops in the moment, but is that behavior occurring in the future?
Another myth that exists, that therapy only happens lying down on a chaise longue in somebody's darkened office somewhere.
I've heard that children can't access psychological therapy unless they've got serious mental health conditions. Is that true?
Great question.
Yeah, I would say
As a therapy team, we thought we would get together and try and debunk some of the myths that exist in society about the sort of work that we do. So are there any misconceptions that exist about occupational therapy, dietitian, behaviour analysts, or psychology work that you have been aware of through your work that you'd like to take the opportunity to talk back to?
So I've heard that it's that children can't access psychological therapy unless they've got serious mental health conditions. Is that true?
Great question.
Yeah, I would say no. And the reason I would say no is therapy isn't just about working through a mental health need. Depending on the type of therapy model that you use, lots of therapeutic interventions focus on a person's goals, how aligned they are with their values, and how they can achieve the things that they set out to achieve. So it isn't just focused necessarily on a mental health presentation. It can factor in hopes and desires and wishes for a young person. And I think everybody would benefit from space just to pause, think and reflect about the things that they find difficult. You don't necessarily need a mental health diagnosis to think about that. But also just in this fast-paced world that we live in now as well, we have additional stressors that I would argue we shouldn't be having to deal with. And so taking a minute to slow down and just be present with yourself is really valuable. So I've accessed therapy in the past when I haven't necessarily needed it per se, but it was a really helpful experience for me just to be present and reconnect with myself.
We all have psychological needs.
True.
So it's about honouring that and giving ourselves time to work through things that might require additional space and focus. And sometimes just by doing that, everything sort of falls a little bit more into place for our own understanding. And sometimes that takes exploration alongside someone else to help us see the wood for the trees, as it were.
So when I think about our young people, I think about they might not necessarily need the one-on-one intervention in that sense, but actually it's quite relational. So sitting with someone, just talking to them about their day, like they could really benefit from that.
Makes me think about another myth that exists, that therapy only happens either lying down on a chaise longue in somebody's darkened office somewhere, or that it only happens indoors. And actually, I think quite a lot of our work is very different than that.
Yeah.
Like, we're often out and about. We'll take therapy outdoors. We'll be alongside somebody, and that's often an easier space to talk in rather than sort of one-on-one facing each other, which can, for some people, feel quite intimidating and make them withdraw. So we're always looking for different ways to try and open doors for conversations. And often, very often, that's not sitting down across a coffee table.
It might be a walk in the park.
It might well be a walk in the park. Are there myths that exist about your professions that you've become aware of?
Mine is mainly about obesity. So does a child need, like if there's a child who's underweight or even looks okay in the sense where they're in the healthy range of their BMI, do they need dietitian intervention? So I say yes, they do. It's not always about obesity because each child comes with a different need, a personalized requirement as well. So let's say, I will always say one thing, that BMI is never true, 100% do all the time. So if you see a child who is built muscular, and if you put them on a weight scale, they might be heavier than the average child, but they haven't got any fats on them. So that weight is carried on the muscles, you can see. So this is where I sometimes come in. I try to maintain that muscle mass in them, and that's why a dietitian is always there to monitor these kids. You have to have someone like me to classify them as overweight, or do they need the intervention? Hope that answers the question.
Yeah. Thank you.
I wonder if this is a myth, but can anyone follow a YouTube, like a AI therapist? Is that something
that's a great question.
Is
That's
that something
very current,
that's like, because I'll tell you myself personally, I have friends who are like, oh Zainab, like screw the therapist, the real one. You don't need to pay £30 per month. You can always go to ChatGPT and ask them advice, and it's like a therapist. And I'm always like queasy, like, is that like, is that approved, or is that effective?
I think you need to be cautious on AI because
you?
it wouldn't necessarily be personalised to your needs. It would be general, like the general information, but it might not be personalised to your dietary needs. And then you might end up eating something that you might be allergic to.
True. And what about if you are a therapist, though, like emotionally wise, like?
It's a great question. It's being debated quite a lot at the moment. And we're thinking about, you know, the added advantage of that sort of 24/7, always having someone, because often needs are in the depths of night, right? And there isn't anyone available. You don't necessarily want to phone your friends
Or your therapist.
or your
Then
therapist.
It comes back to Googling your symptoms, doesn't it? And then thinking that you're not going to live.
So if these things are developed alongside sort of qualified therapists, then perhaps there is a space for them. I mean, we're going to have to sort of get our head round what space that AI therapy is going to be working in, because obviously it's very, very new, and it depends, I guess, also what you want out of the space.
And one thing I'm concerned is the next generation might have access to toys who are able to do AI. So I don't know if anyone knows about Furby, the toy where you mimics you, but in the future they might put an AI Furby where it could be like your friend, your best friend. So I wonder if they use that as a therapist, therapy-wise, for the children. I wonder how that will work out.
It's definitely a space to watch, isn't it? To see how things develop and what research goes into that kind of thing, and having AI therapists. Joanna, what's a myth in behaviour analysis?
Well, there's a massive myth around ABA, applied behavior analysis, that it's about discipline and punishment. And parents are right on a side, because in the past, when therapists were not properly trained and they didn't understand the full repercussions of punishing, as in any job, in any field, there are people that are doing it right and people that are not doing it right and are unethical. And now we as behavior analysts are working very hard in debunking that myth. So in the past, I've done lots of training on how punishment is actually bad for the children and is not teaching appropriate behaviors. So even the smallest things like plan ignoring, or reprimanding, if you do this, I'm going to take this away from you, or if you do that one more time, I'm going to have to, I don't know, like not give you a token or not buy you your favorite snack, which we all do at home. Like everyone probably has done it in the past at some point with their kids. These are punishment procedures, and they break the relationship between the adult and the child, and they don't teach appropriate behavior. So you just tell them, don't do that, but if you don't tell them what to do instead, they'll keep doing that because this is what worked in the past. So my training includes how positive reinforcement is a lot better than all these strategies, because people will argue, yes, but when I say that he stops, well, he stops in the moment, but is that behavior occurring in the future? That's what's telling you if your strategy works. So that means that strategy is reinforcing the behavior, it's not punishing. Punishment is when you're doing something that's likely to stop the behavior in the future. So Claire, what's a myth in occupational therapy that you can share with us?
So a lot of people think that occupational therapy is only for physical disabilities and physical needs, but actually it's not. It's for everybody. Anybody in this room can have occupational therapy at any time if they needed. So we support anyone from infant right up till the older generation, and that could be for anything for physical health, mental health. So when we look at physical health, we would look at maybe if they had cerebral palsy, or if they had been in an accident and needed to return to work. Maybe you've dislocated your shoulder and you need to regain the movement. It crosses over with physiotherapy quite a lot as well. So occupational therapy isn't just for physical disabilities. We support people of all disabilities, all functions, from infants right up until people in the older age. We support people with their emotional regulation. We can support people with their mental health. We can support people to get back into work, to regain strength, to regain their occupations, hence occupational therapy, because it's about supporting people to be themselves and enjoy their lives and regain as much function as they possibly can through therapy.
Can you give us an example?
Yes, somebody that might have had a mental health crisis, so they might have been an inpatient in an inpatient unit. An occupational therapist can support them to regain their confidence. That could be with something like going shopping, just to go get their weekly shopping. They might have lost the confidence to leave their house. So you could start with something like online shopping, and then you could start with going to a smaller shop and kind of build your way up to a bigger shop. You can also help people get back into work. So if they've been out of work for a period of time and they need adjustments to return to work, you can support them to get them adjustments put in place before they go back to work.
So I think our roles as therapists in all our areas of expertise is to lead by example, and instead of having arguments and like just contradicting with the people, we just lead by example and we just do it.